This is the Gonda ride we are going to have.
Her name is
We are going to have.
Alright, come with.
So I'm coming with you.
Yeah, come here. Because they're only taking
நான் அந்த பக்கம் போயிடுறேன் நீ இப்படி உட்காரு அவங்க மாப்பிள்ள உட்காரவங்க கூட
Okay, okay, I'm coming with you.
Yes. She wants you to come. Yeah, just come.
Okay. Where y'all from?
Dallas,
Oh,
Texas.
you've been around here before?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for visiting, but
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So what do you cover in this tour? What do you cover for 30 minutes?
It's like a history tour through the French Quarter.
Okay.
Yep. I'm gonna go ahead and let him lead, and we'll just follow that back behind that.
Sounds good.
All right, I'll pull around you, okay?
Yeah, you go on.
that is white one
This is Magnolia. Her name is Magnolia.
Yeah, y'all, that's my partner on the front. That's Magnolia. My name is Tebow.
Tibo what is the name of the horse Nola
Magnolia.
oh Magnola nice name
And she's a mule, not a horse.
Oh.
A little bit donkey, a little bit horse.
Okay. With some monkey and horse.
yes oh அதுக்கு இன்னும் பேர் சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல இன்னும் பேர்
It
சொல்லுவாங்க
said it's a mule and a horse.
மியூல் அதான் மிக்ஸ்க்கு ஏதோ ஒன்று இருக்குது பேர் இட்ஸ் a mix of a mule and horse
Probably gonna be hot.
Magnola. The horse which rides us is Magnola. She is a mix of mule and horse.
If I can take from here. Wait, I'll take from here.
Y'all just doing a little vacation trip?
Yeah. We're going to Destin. Just one night.
Oh, he is going to go first.
Huh?
We are going to follow
They're
him.
going first. We're going to follow them.
Yeah.
For wolf. But I've never done this before.
Nice. Taste it. Bye.
Yeah, I know. He's all dressed up.
They are all on the line.
We have to wait for that light to turn red, then we're going to make a U-turn and kind of head on down.
Someone, can you move a little bit?
Yeah.
A little bit. Thank you.
எனக்கு அந்த ஐ லைக் த பெயிண்டிங்ஸ் அது எனக்கு அந்த பெயிண்டிங் இருக்குல்ல அது ஒரு ஐடியா நிறைய நம்மக்கிட்ட வேஸ்ட் ஃப்ளவர்ஸ் இருக்குல்ல அதை வச்சு பண்ணலாம் நல்லா இருக்குல்ல அந்த ஐடியா
All right, y'all, I'll show you some more tours. Y'all have any questions for us at all? Please feel free to ask.
Yep.
I'll let y'all know a little bit about where we're starting off now. I'll tell you about the park over here on the left that I met you in front of now. That is Jackson Square. And that's pretty much where New Orleans began. This park does sit at the very center of the original old city of New Orleans. And that's what we call the French Quarter, or the Vieux Carré. Vieux Carré means Old Square. And the park is named for Andrew Jackson. He was the 7th president. But the reason he's got a park in our town is because Andrew Jackson commanded American forces at the Battle of New Orleans. Now, that battle occurred on January 8th, 1815. And what happened there was General Jackson and his men defeated a British invasion force that was attempting to come upriver and capture the city right at the end of the War of 1812. You know what? When you win the battle, you win the
yeah,
money.
definitely.
They gave him that one. He won. You'll notice that big church right behind Jackson Square. Now that's the St. Louis Cathedral. And that is the oldest active Roman Catholic cathedral in the United States. What is what? It's the oldest active Roman Catholic cathedral.
Cathedral, oldest.
But now the church that stands there currently, that's the third church on that site. It was built there in 1794. So it's been there a while, but it is the third one. The first church was built there back in 1727. And they still use it every day. They say Mass on 12:05, Monday through Friday. They do a vigil Mass on Saturdays at 5 p.m. And then it's going to be twice on Sundays. They say Mass at 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. every Sunday. You know why they say Mass earlier on Sundays? Just to make sure we all have time to rush home and watch the Saints lose at 12 o'clock. That's what they do.
That has been mentioned anyway. That house. Ah, really?
We'll see later on.
So nice.
First, listen to the tour.
Even these houses are made of wood
Where all
or...
this came from, I'll tell you a little bit about some of the early history of the area. Earlier this year in May, New Orleans had a birthday. And
Here most of them are made out of brick, not like
7 years old.
McLean, Texas.
New Orleans was founded back in May of 1718. The founder of our town was a French-Canadian explorer. He was a captain in the French Navy. He went by the name of Jean-Baptiste Lemoyne Sieur de Diego.
இப்படி ஒரு விளக்கு எரியுது பத்தியா அதுல
On the banks of the
பால்கனில
Mississippi River. The
பகல்ல
river's right behind us over there.
I notice that
On behalf of the
See,
French
everywhere.
town. So this all was in a little
The lamps.
settlement originally. And the King of France at that time was Louis Canton. So that was King Louis XV on the throne now. But you know what? Louis, although he was the king in 1718, he was not yet the ruler of France. Just because in that year, King Louis was only 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And he wasn't going to be allowed to govern his kingdom until he turned 13 years of age. Because I guess they didn't want an 8-year-old running the empire.
Fisha is 8 years old.
Okay, same age as King Louis.
Turning 9, but you can
rule.
Rule.
You can be a queen.
you can be the fish and explorer.
I don't know how they came up with 13, but that's another thing. So you go until...
That's a lot of responsibility.
And this was the Dauphin, Philippe II. Now, Philippe was the Duke of Orleans. And so that's why they chose the name, La Nouvelle Orleans, or New Orleans in English.
I don't know.
But although New Orleans was a little French town originally, the city was only French for 44 years, between 1718 and 1762. And then that changed in 1762, when all of Louisiana, including New Orleans, became a part of the Spanish Empire. Y'all, right now I'm referring to the Louisiana Territory, not the state. The territory was considerably larger. It reached north all the way up into Canada. And it was comprised of most of the land between the Mississippi River and the Rocky Mountains. Right? 14 current U.S. states were in Louisiana when it was a territory. And that all became Spanish in 1762 after France lost the 7 Years' War to the English. Right? Under Louis XV. Well, when he lost that war, he lost control of eastern Canada. And most of the French holdings east of the Mississippi, he was concerned that the British would cross the river and take Louisiana too. Which he didn't want that to happen, but he just lost the war. The one thing Louis did understand, though, was that England was not prepared to go to war with Spain, so he got the feeling that if he could make Louisiana Spanish, the British would not be likely to invade. And very conveniently, the King of Spain was his first cousin.
Oh.
That was Juan Carlos III. These two kings were families. They both were members of the royal house of Bourbon. So, what King Louis did is, through diplomacy, of course, he basically just gave Louisiana to his cousin. He signed documents voluntarily ceding control of the territory. And the plan worked out great. The British never did take Louisiana. And their flag has never flown over New Orleans. Never was an English town. Spain governed the territory for 41 years thereafter, between 1762 and 1803. New Orleans was the capital of Spanish Louisiana. In 1803, Spain gave it back to France. They struck a deal with Napoleon Bonaparte, retroceding the territory. And then, of course, it was Napoleon We sold it all to the Americans. That's what we call the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. But I do need to mention this. Now, the fact that Spain was here for that long definitely left an impact on the city. Just about anywhere you go within the French Quarter, you still see the Spanish influence.
Yes.
And for one simple reason. On March 21st, 1788, 75% of the city burns to the ground.
Oh wow.
So when it had to be rebuilt. So you know what? This neighborhood that we call the French Quarter is almost entirely Spanish architecture. Except for that one, you know, that big building on the right over there is French. That's the old Ursuline convent. And that was built there between 1749 and 1753. So having been completed, 1753, almost 10 years before the Spanish arrived, this old convent is a very rare example of French colonial architecture. Anywhere
Cement
in Louisiana.
Museum. Mary's
Now,
Church.
that's no longer a working convent, but the property is still owned by the Archdiocese of New Orleans, and these days they use it more like a museum.
Yes.
There is a church attached. Now, the church is about 100 years younger. That's St. Mary's Catholic Church. You know, I suppose.
கை நீட்டக்கூடாது.
Right now, we're
Okay,
making
the
our way
president.
through the lower French Quarter. And the lower quarter is the entire end of the neighborhood between Jackson Square, where we started, and Esplanade Avenue up and down this way. The lower French Quarter is mostly residential. So all these buildings around here, mostly residences. Of course, there are a few little restaurants and shops around.
Oh.
But, you know, typically speaking, the French Quarter does usually have somewhere between 3,000 and 3,500 full-time residents. And most of them do tend to live on this end. Matter of fact, you see the 5 buildings here on the right. So there's a couple of those are for sale these days, but they're all, you know, part of the condominium. These buildings originally were constructed all the way back in the 1830s.
This is
by
part
James
1.